He got 3 big chances according to the stats, which you can look at it as a negative because he didn't put them away, but I think it makes far more sense to look at it as a positive. I saw a stat yesterday that Højlund has only generated 3 big chances in 22 Premier League games this season.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
That's not good enough for a United striker.
It's not, is it?
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Academy Review. Joining me as always is Finn, otherwise known as Academy Scoop on all your socials. Finn, it's been an interesting week, hasn't it, for the Academy players?
Yeah, definitely. Apart from the horror show yesterday, it's been quite a positive week. Got a lot to talk about with the under-18s, and I think quite a good story there. But yeah.
I get your point, and obviously it was a horror show, but I feel like the only, or one of the few positives from the Fulham game were the younger players, the likes of Ayden Heaven and Chido Obi, who came in and acquitted themselves very well. We'll get into that first before we'll get into the Arsenal under-18s game a little bit later on. We'll start with Chido. You broke the story when he was joining Manchester United. The likes of David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano were quoting you. You've obviously watched him for a little while now. I was going to say for a very long time, but that's in sort of, in the context of how long he's been playing, you have. But obviously, recently you've been watching him a lot, and you've been saying, me and you, when we first spoke on this podcast, you said you expected him to get minutes this season. I think he's probably still when Ten Hag was manager when you were saying that. It has happened now. We've seen him get a few minutes against Spurs, 20 minutes at Goodison, and then obviously a little bit longer against Fulham. How do you think he got on against Fulham? Because I was watching him very closely, and there was this period, I think the first maybe 10, 15, where he barely touched the ball, and I was like, oh, is this going to be one of them days? But then he certainly seemed to grow into the game. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about the context in terms of who's the alternative, because when you watch Højlund for 65 minutes before Chido came on. Like that. He made nothing stick, didn't look threatening in front of goal. He's not able to create chances for himself. And what we saw when Chido came on is that, it took him a little bit of time to kind of get up to speed and get involved in the game. But he started generating chances and finding himself in the right position. And I think for the fact that he's a 17-year-old, recently turned 17-year-old striker who's only really played under-18 football, I think it was very impressive and really encouraging for the rest of the season, because it looks like at the very least you've got a striker who can be a nuisance, have a bit of gravity in and around the box that maybe creates space for your wingers. I don't think he's going to come in and start scoring a goal a game like we see in the academy, but I think there were some really good early signs.
We needed someone like that to come in, I feel, and get the crowd going. I know obviously it didn't lead to a win, but the crowd were behind him, almost willing him to get on the ball, willing him to score. We've missed that because obviously people have lost a lot of faith in Rasmus Højlund. Joshua Zirkzee, who seems to have turned the crowd around in terms of being on his side. He's not a goal scorer. He's not. I don't think people looking at him going, "Oh yeah, this is it. We're going to get something." But when Chido did get on the ball, especially in those dangerous areas, you felt like he could create something and make something happen. And we've just missed a bit of that, haven't we?
Yeah, there's that sense of danger that he brings, where you can see even established first team defenders are a little bit nervy around him because he's unpredictable. He's such a physical presence, and he's got a real knack for kind of predicting where the ball's going to fall. In those kind of tense situations in the box where there's like a huddle of players, he's really good at being in the right place for when it drops and just getting a tap in. We've seen it so many times for the academy this season. Happened against Chelsea in the Youth Cup for his third goal, I think. It just fell to him, and the rest of United's attackers all charged towards the box, and he had that intelligence to just sit back a bit and say, actually, no, I'm going to wait because I think there's going to be a chance here. And he's got that know-how that's really impressive for someone his age and with his relative lack of experience. Also he was up against Bassi, who's one of the most physical centre-backs that you'll find, absolutely bullied Højlund throughout the game. And he came on and he looked physically equal to him. It was actually quite a good battle that we saw between them. And I think you can take so many positives from the performance. And there's certainly no red flags in terms of, his skill set and his abilities. Obviously the finishing will come. He got 3 big chances according to the stats, which you can look at it as a negative because he didn't put them away, but I think it makes far more sense to look at it as a positive, because I think I saw a stat yesterday that Højlund has only generated 3 big chances in 22 Premier League games this season.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
That's not good enough for a United striker.
It's not, is it?
And it's kind of shifted my perspective a little bit, because I've been I've defended Højlund quite a lot and said, well, he's not getting the service. But maybe if you're a United striker, you need to be able to generate those chances for yourself. And we saw Chido do that. So, yeah, positives all around, I think.
Do you have any concerns now that the sort of the cat is well and truly out of the bag with this kid? He's not an unknown quantity. People know what he's about. People have seen him playing in Manchester United's first team. They know there's a player there. We know his record for the academy and the sort of the meltdown that a lot of Arsenal fans had when he left there. Do you worry that there's more expectation now? Because I think if you were to do a straw poll of Manchester United fans, should he start against Sociedad, I think the majority would say yeah. Do you worry that there is too much expectation on a player who is still, very, very early in his career?
Yeah, he's definitely very ahead of schedule in terms of his development. We've got to remember he's a first-year scholar. He's a first-year under-18 player. There's so much chat online about the likes of Lamine Yamal and now Ethan Nwaneri at Arsenal, these players that kind of shift the perspective and the expectations of young players. But it's important to take a step back and contextualise just how impressive what he's doing is and how far ahead of schedule he is, and use that to give him some leeway, some patience and some understanding, because it's not just going to be an overnight thing where he's suddenly ready to lead the line for Manchester United. I think given the situation, we might see him become a starter this season because of how poor the other options are, and just the situation we're in. Ruben Amorim brought 17-year-old Giovanni Kenda, I think it is now, not Quenda, into the Sporting first team. I think he gave him his debut at 16, and he clearly kind of nurtured him really well, understood what to expect from him and how to get the best out of him and also protect him from the media. So I think it's a positive sign that there's a coach that knows how to kind of manage these transitions. Obviously Amorim's under a lot of fire at the moment, but I'm still looking at quite a lot of positives in him, and youth development and integration is one of those things. But yeah, we've got to give him patience because he's 17. He shouldn't be expected to lead the line for United, but it might be what ends up happening.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. Another player who played yesterday, you've spoken about a lot and you've raved about a lot, and from what I gather, rightly so as well, from what I saw, I was very impressed with him, was Ayden Heaven, a player who's also come from Arsenal, was a sort of a bigger sign in the sense that United paid a fee for him. I think it was 1.5 million, was brought onto the pitch alongside Patrick Dorgu, obviously a little while ago, and announced as a signing, but we didn't expect to see much of him this season because he's still only young, and obviously the centre-back positions, we do actually have some numbers there, but he came on the pitch yesterday and acquitted himself very well.
Yeah, I was really impressed. When he was signed, I was told that he was viewed as a first-team option, and obviously we'll never look at an injury as a positive, but for him it was quite fortuitous that Lisandro Martinez has got injured now, because that's an opportunity for him to step into this 11 and make a name for himself and show what he's about, and I think he did that really well yesterday. He's again, it's important to recognise he's a midfielder by trade. Yeah. He's had to relearn the game from a defender's point of view in the last 2 years since coming into under-18 football, but he acquitted himself really well. I think he looked assured on the ball. Positionally, he didn't get caught out of place, made a couple decent blocks in the box, and I think you can take a lot of positives from his performance. There were a few times late in the game where he got on the ball and he bombed forward down that kind of left channel, and I think that's what Amorim's going to be expecting from his wide centre-backs. He really wants them to push into the midfield and kind of provide that extra option to build through, because I think our build-up is horrific right now. We just look lost and everything gets sent wide. So I was really impressed, and I think the alternative is Lindelof, especially if Maguire is injured at the moment. The alternative is Lindelof, and I'm sorry, but he's not good enough. He shouldn't be at United in 2025, in my opinion. No,
I agree. It's a shame, Lindelof, but I think I've been saying this for the last 18 months. I'm not just saying it because he missed the penalty. Anyone can miss a penalty, but he's not up to the job, and I think everyone knows that. And it is a shame, but we've got to be honest about these things. Was there anyone that you were? This might sound like a really strange question, but was there anyone on the bench that didn't get any minutes that you wish had?
Yeah, I think well, they weren't on the bench, but I think someone like a Jack Moorhouse...
Oh, sorry, yeah, not even in the squad, that's a fair point.
It was a weird decision to me that we didn't even fill out our bench when you do have under 21 players like Jack Moorhouse or Sekou Kone, especially, midfielders, I think, is the area where we can really benefit from the academy. Again, Casemiro is a legend of the game, and he's had a brilliant season for United when he first joined, but I don't think he should be playing for us in 2025 given his performances. And so I think, why not bring in a Sekou Kone or a Jack Moorhouse, who have been brilliant for the under-21s this season? Sure, not the finished product, but it actually just can't be much worse than what we've got at the moment. So I would have liked to see them given a chance, at least be put on the bench for that idea that they could get a chance, because I think that's important for them to be in and around the matchday squad and be feeling like they're on the fringe, just so that they can be ready when they're called upon. So I was disappointed to see them not there.
Well, what do you think the thinking? Do we know the thinking behind not having a full bench?
I don't know. I guess in the eyes of the manager, maybe they're not considered ready. Right. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I'd assume that that's the case. I can't really think of any other reason why they wouldn't be called upon. Yeah,
maybe there is that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a message to the board. Look, I haven't got enough players.
Yeah,
maybe there is an element. I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong, but maybe there's an element of that as well. We know managers aren't averse to sending a little bit of a message to those above them that look, I need reinforcements or whatever, and maybe that'll happen in the summer. But just from our conversations, from what I've seen, I completely agree. And I think it would be a positive if we can get some more of these younger players who've obviously done so well at academy and under 21 levels into the first team. You don't just want to see them thrown in sort of constantly or whatever, but give them some opportunities, and which is better for Manchester United, giving someone like a Kone a chance, a Kone or a Moorhouse a chance, or sticking with Casemiro, no disrespect to. Mm-hmm. At times against Fulham that you looked all right. Those are times where you're just hoofing the ball up and you think, that's not what you're about. Like, come on. It's just, I think that what could potentially salvage the season is maybe trusting the youth a little bit more. If we can go back a little bit further, we've had enough of talking about the Fulham game, despite the positives you've highlighted. United played Arsenal on Friday night. You were there. What was just talk us through it, basically. It's obviously a good result. Talk us through how it went about.
So it was Arsenal versus United at the Emirates in the FA Youth Cup. Obviously a huge game. The FA Youth Cup is kind of the major hope for the under-18s this season, now that the league seems a little bit out of reach for now, at least, unless City slip up. It looks like they're going to be taking the league, the North League, this season. So it was basically a story of a brilliant team against a collection of individuals, and there was one specific individual who caused a lot of problems we'll talk about. But it was a 3-2 win in the end. It went right to extra time. It was a very, very kind of to and fro game, lots of changes in momentum. United opened the scoring with Jack Fletcher early in the first half. He was brilliant, so kind of composed in the midfield, really great vision, and spots a lot of kind of really smart passes. United had played really well up to that point, pressed high in Arsenal's half, been really positive on the ball, and it fell to him on the edge of the box. He kind of jinked and cut in onto his weaker right foot and absolutely smashed it past Arsenal's keeper, Jack Porter. Really, really nice strike into kind of the top right corner to put United ahead. It was completely deserved because Arsenal really didn't have a look in, aside from... There was a bit of vulnerability from United on the counter-attack because we were playing so high. Arsenal's only really way through was to play long balls over the top and find players in behind, which did actually come back to bite United a little bit. Lewis Copley was found by a really good ball over the top, and I think Dan Armour kind of struggled for pace a little bit to keep up with him. Armour's been really good for the under-18s this season. He's a centre-back that I like a lot. He's got a lot of quality on the ball, but maybe he lacks a bit of pace to his game, and I think he can get caught out sometimes, and it was a difficult one for him to deal with because it was kind of coming over his head. Copley dinked it over Murdoch and equalised for Arsenal. Felt a little bit undeserved because I think United had been so good. This is what we expect of an Adam Lawrence team now, because you always know what you're going to get. They're well drilled. The shape is always you know what you can expect, and it was really positive up until that point. And then Arsenal kind of grew into the game with this kid, Max Dowman, at the heart of things. We've talked about some special players, on here. I'm not sure I've seen a performance like the one I saw from Max Dowman at the Emirates on Friday night. This kid, he's 15. He's been training with Arsenal's first team since he was 14. And he's just one of those special talents that just stands out from the rest. And he was causing United all sorts of problems. In a sea of individuals, he was basically doing everything for them, whereas United were, a collective that were playing together. So it was, I think early in the second half, he basically had Monroe on toast, took the ball from the halfway line, dribbled it on the right flank, right into the box, and Monroe brought him down. It was a little bit light, but the referee awarded a penalty, and Dowman tucked it away, and Arsenal took the lead, 2-1.
Thankfully, though, that wasn't to be the end of it. Obviously, United came back and got the win, talk us through the rest of the game.
So in the second half, we brought on Ibrahimov and Thwaites off the bench. They kind of come as a pair now for the under-18s. Adam Lawrence often looks to bring them on to introduce a little bit of energy and a bit of quality in the final third, and they're so good at it. They're both really intelligent, so much quality on the ball, and you could see a bit of a shift in momentum, because as Arsenal had grown into the game, United regressed a little bit until their introduction, and it wasn't until the 84th minute, Jayden Camerson, who was my man of the match, I think he was absolutely fantastic, young right back who is so good going forward. He's really kind of grown that part of the game this season, because he's always been great defensively, but so impactful in the final third. A ball was played over to him by James Scanlon, and he was on kind of the right side of the box, spotted an opening and just let rip. Another fantastic strike, a little bit like Jack Fletcher's in the first half. That was the equaliser for United late in the game, and there was a kind of feeling that, right, it looks like they've done enough now, where it was headed firmly in their direction, and it ended up going to extra time, because that kid Dowman just kept Arsenal in the game. They kept every time he was on the ball, you just felt like something was going to happen, and he almost did score the winner for them. It was honestly like Messi-esque the way he picked up the ball in the midfield, and honestly he just cut straight through, and he's got this kind of deceptive burst of pace where he just explodes with the ball, and he ran it straight into United's box and almost got the finish off, but Will Murdoch made a great save to keep United in the game. Went to extra time. We made a few more substitutions, brought on Kukonki, Samuel Lassalle, he was a summer signing from Crystal Palace, and Bendito Mantato, who was back from injury. He spent quite a while out over the Christmas and winter period. They really, really helped United close out the game. The goal came in the 98th minute, I think. Jim Thwaites got on the ball deep in the midfield and played this beautiful long ball over the top, finding Lassalle on the left wing. He ran it really well, beat his defender on the outside and squared it to Mantato, who was there to tap in. Really good team goal, and it was thoroughly deserved because United had been the way better team. And outside of Max Dowman's hero ball, we'd really dominated and deserved the win. So United progressed to the next round of the FA Youth Cup. We don't find out who they're playing for another 2 weeks, because Aston Villa still, I think it's Aston Villa and West Brom, maybe. I have to check that one.
We can double check.
We'll check that one.
It's fine.
Really, really positive result in the end at the Emirates. It was really good to see a big United following there. There was kind of a huddle in the crowd who had made their way down, and really, really good result.
It's good to see, obviously, like you said, going to the Emirates, and also missing some players because they were in the first team. So obviously Chido Obi, who could have featured in that game, didn't, because he was.
That was a big miss for United before the game.
That's one of your better players, and obviously a consistent goal scorer. So it's actually Villa. I think, is it Villa versus Plymouth?
Plymouth versus Villa. So we'll await that result, and then they'll do the draw. It's shaping up to be a Manchester derby final.
No, I don't know if I can stomach that.
It would be a cracking game. They're the two best teams in the country right now. And to be honest, I think if United are able to field full fit 11, I'd still be confident going into the final. We did lose a few weeks ago in the league, but United had been hit by injuries. We had 7 or 8 important players out, but we beat them at the Etihad campus early in the season, and so it would be a fantastic final. But yeah, this is definitely the competition that United will be resting their hopes on.
How does it work for the final? Is it one leg? Is it 2 legs? I went to the final against Forest a few years ago, but I've forgotten. Forgive me, how the FA Youth Cup.
No, just 1 leg these days.
How do they decide where it's at? Because obviously the one I went to was at Old Trafford years ago. It used to be 2 legs, didn't it?
It did used to be 2 legs. Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm sure we beat Sheffield United.
I think they changed it around 2010, 2011.
Right, shows you how up to date I am. So do you know how they decide?
I think it's just luck of the draw.
Right, okay.
It's home or away.
Home or away. Obviously, when we beat Forest, it was at Old Trafford, which was a great day. Someone called Alejandro Garnacho was the star of the show that day.
He scored a brace, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Kobbie Mainoo was fantastic again.
I knew he was going to say that, and rightly so. There's a few people that pointed out the lad Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah. I mean, his performance against Wolves in the round before was another one similar to the one that Dowman put up. One of those performances where he's just like miles clear, doing whatever he wants on the pitch.
Even though he's only obviously very young. He's special.
Yeah. So it's always
Dowman is the one to watch.
Even when it's not for your team, there's always something special about watching a player that good who you just know is going to go on to be a superstar. Hopefully it's not for Arsenal.
Yeah, it's good when it's academy as well, because you don't have that hatred. When it's a player for the first team, you probably don't like him, so it's a bit difficult to. Now and again, you can do. I remember when R9 scored a hat-trick against United and he got a round of applause at Old Trafford because United fans were just like, this is it.
You just got to give it to them.
Yeah,
sometimes
it's a bit different usually. But to see like a player, but I wasn't at the game, but I obviously spoke to you. My group chat had a few lads that went down, and they were all saying the same thing. Like, this kid Max Dowman, he's just unbelievable.
He's a little bit special.
From the under-18s for United that you saw, do you think there's anyone that potentially Ruben Amorim could be looking at? Because let's be honest, the wheels are coming off this season. Yeah. It might be time to just turn to any positives you can find.
If we exit from the Europa League against Sociedad, I think just throw the kids in for the rest of the season. As long as we're sure we're not going to get relegated, what's there to lose?
If he did that, is there anyone in particular you'd like to see being given a chance?
I'd love to see Camerson given a chance.
You mentioned him. Is this the right back, yeah?
Yeah, right back. Unsure about Mazraoui and Dallow's performances this season. 2 players that I like overall. Yeah,
Mazraoui has tailed off a little bit.
He has a little bit. I think
Dallow's not having a great season as well.
I think with Mazraoui, it's a combination of dropping to the level of the rest of the squad and also maybe the position at wing back not really suiting him, because he's not the most kind of explosive athlete down the right, and you need that from an Amorim wing back to really be able to bomb forward. And Jayden Camerson has that. He did it all game against Arsenal, causing real problems because he can explode into space and really kind of attack that space and be a nuisance in the box. But he's also defensively really capable. So he's kind of the first name that stands out that I'd really like to see given a chance. Deserves it so much because he's improved a lot, and he's a really good character. So definitely Camerson. Also, I mean, Harry Amas for similar reasons on the left.
Yeah.
He's got so much quality. Maybe not as physical or as explosive, but he's so good on the ball. Can always wriggle his way out of pressure, and never really gets dispossessed. So he's another one for similar reasons. Also, Jace Fitzgerald. You'd think that he could come into the midfield and really show a bit of quality, because he's got that kind of old head temperament to him, where he never kind of looks pressured, always got a nice rhythm to his game and can evade pressure really well and has a great passing range. So there's a lot of options. Kakonki's been near the first team set up for a few weeks. So, I just hope they're given a chance, because at this point in the season, what is there to lose?
Also, if you were, I'm always wary of just throwing in loads of youngsters, but I do get your point. And I think if United were to have sort of a few decent results towards the end of the season, featuring a lot of youngsters, or a few youngsters, then you can look towards next season and go, actually, maybe Ruben Amorim, with this group of young players, can do something over the next few years, can move this team forward and this club forward. It does give you some sort of hope, doesn't it?
I think it's so important to
going into the next few seasons,
to create a little bit of positivity when there's 100%. There's barely any in the first team. These players are going to come in, and apart from a few idiotic fans who get onto them, there's no pressure, because the season's done, right? There's nothing to lose now. So give them a chance. Let them see what, show what they're about. And, then you never know, there might be a few surprises that you can look to next season and think, well, they can actually play a part. And then you look at the summer, it sounds like we've got Giovanni Kenda almost wrapped up.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple other young players and then a couple senior ones. Suddenly, you've got a positive outlook for next season. So I think it's important that they're given a chance.
Couldn't agree more. You've cheered me up a bit there, Finn, which isn't an easy.
That's what I'm here for.
Isn't an easy thing to achieve at the minute when it comes to Manchester United, but there are a lot of positives with some of these young players. Thank you for coming back on the channel. We're going to have lots more of Finn as well. Make sure you follow him at Academy Scoop. You know where to find me. That's been Finn. I'm Jay. This has been Academy Review. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.